Good evening. Welcome to the Joint Planning and Zoning Board and Board of Commissioners meeting of August the 2nd, September of 2022. I am Briggs Simmons, Planning and Zoning Chair. Prior to this meeting, announcements were posted and notices were sent to all board members, commissioners, staff, interested parties, and applicants in the meeting. I will now turn it over to Dr. Ramona Jackson-Jones, Board Chair, to introduce and confirm the presence of our commissioners. Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Chairman Simmons. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our joint P&Z and Board of Commissioners meeting. Certainly, I will introduce myself first, and then I'll yield to my commissioners to the right of me to allow them to introduce themselves. Tonight, I'm doing something a little different. Dr. Ramona Jackson-Jones, the chairwoman of the Douglas County Board of Commissioners, and I'll yield to my right.
Okay. Kelly Robinson, Vice Chairman of Douglas County Board of Commissioners, Commissioner of District 2.
Ann Jones-Guider, District 4, Commissioner.
Tarenia Carthen, District 3.
Commissioner Henry Mitchell, District 1.
All right, thank you so much, Board of Commissioners. We do have an established quorum, and I yield back to you, Chairman Simmons.
Thank you very much. Also present, we have members of the Planning and Zoning Board. Please confirm your presence when I call your name. Vice Chair, Mr. Rob Thomas.
Present.
Teresa Knowles.
Present.
Oric Curry.
Present.
Brandon Penniman.
Present.
Frank Payne.
Present.
And Kirk Nicholson, our Board of Education representative. Madam Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you.
Allison Duncan, our Planning and Zoning Manager, will now introduce the county staff and Planning and Zoning staff present in the meeting.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight we have with us Deputy County Manager Frederick Perry, Assistant County Manager Tiffany Stewart Stanley, County Attorney Michael Coleman. We have the Director of Development Services, James Worthington, the Director of our Department of Transportation, Miguel Valentin. We have our Senior Zoning Administrator, Phil Schaefer, our Senior Planner, Jaquel Johnson, and our Planning and Zoning Board Clerk, Johanna Womack.
Thank you very much. There's a reversionary clause that applies to each rezoning, and that is the applicant, the agent, or property owner has 24 months to vest the zoning change after the Board of Commissioners have granted an approval. As far as tonight's procedures go, I will conduct the public hearing. Planning and Zoning staff will announce each application, followed by a full presentation on the application. The applicant or their representative, members of the public in favor of the application, will be able to present their information. They will have 2 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 15 minutes to speak on behalf of an application. Members of the public in opposition to the application will be able to present their information. They also will have 2 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 15 minutes to speak in opposition. After the opposition completes their input or the time has elapsed, the public hearing will be officially closed. If the staff is unable to answer or clarify any points of the zoning case, the board will then ask the applicant for points of clarification, and this is not a time to represent their case. Planning and Zoning Board will then entertain a motion. Our first agenda item tonight will be the approval of the meeting of our minutes of our August 2nd, 2022 regular joint Planning and Zoning and Board of Commissioners meeting. Planning and Zoning Board, after reviewing the minutes, does anybody have any changes, comments, or questions? Hearing none, I would ask for a motion to approve.
Chairman's Rob Thomas, saying a motion to approve the minutes from the August 2022 meeting.
Teresa Knowles, I second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, I will ask for a vote. All in favor of approving the minutes of our August 2nd, 2022 meeting, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you very much. That's unanimous. Madam Chairman, the board has approved the minutes of the August 2nd unanimously.
Thank you so much, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners, I know you've had an opportunity to review the August 2nd, 2022 P&Z and Board of Commissioners meeting or minutes. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion, board? We have a motion and a second. When I call your district, please respond accordingly. District 1? District 2?
Yes.
District 3? Yes. District 4?
Yes.
Chairman, yes. We have a 5-0 unanimous vote, and the motion carries to approve the August 2nd, 2022 minutes. And I yield back to you, Chairman Simmons.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. At this point in time, Mr. Schaefer, would you introduce our next agenda item, which I believe contains 2 items, so we will take both of them up in this conference, and then we will vote on them separately.
Mr. Chairman, that would be perfect. So this evening, we have before us a request from DSP Acquisitions LLC for a rezoning and a future land use map amendment. The future land use map amendment we'll deal with first in vote and then the rezoning. The request is to rezone from residential low density to light industrial, and a future land use map amendment from mixed use corridor to workplace center to bring the property into compliance. So what we've got here is subject property is on Factory Shoals at the intersection of Rock House Road. The sites are bounded on the west by the Sweetwater Creek State Park and is bounded on the south by other residentially zoned property. Also currently, so you all are aware, under contract for near-term rezoning to request light industrial as well. Site's densely wooded, it's undeveloped. It's accessible only from a segment of Rock House Road where it meets at that very odd intersection that's a triangular poor corner of Bullard at Factory Shoals. The slide I'm showing you now is what I reviewed some months back to say and understand what the industrial development was in the area. Recently, we approved projects to the north of this for around 900,000 square feet of industrial across 4 buildings. The project this evening is for a 431,000 square foot building. That is the case there in yellow if you're looking at the map on the screens. The blue colors are what we have already approved in terms of the area in Factory Shoals, Thornton Road, Douglas Hill Road. That area has some 12 million square feet already. This would add a 400,000 plus square feet to that. When you look at this entire node of industrial activity, it's about 15 to 16 million square feet of industrial activity either built or about to be built in terms of permitting or being requested in the near-term future. I just want to point that out because this happens to be a very valuable area for our economy. The zoning on the property is a mix. There is already a piece of it that is zoned light industrial, restricted, and the rest is zoned residential low density. The property is an amalgamation of a number of different ownerships. It took a little bit of time to get all the ownership interests squared away so that they could present for the rezoning this evening. As far as the road's concerned, what we are looking at here is west along Factory Shoals, just as you get to the intersection with Bullard and Rock House, and you can see that it's quite a curve. Here is another shot looking south along Rock House towards the curve as well. It just presents itself as a problematic intersection. Then looking north along Rock House, property would be to the immediate left, and the entrance to the property would be in the curve up ahead on the left as well. And then here we're looking north again along Rock House, where Bullard and Amacanasta Trail come off of Factory Shoals at that intersection. So there'll be some work that needs to be done at that intersection. The other piece of the puzzle I wanted to share with you is the future land use map amendment. So we took a look at what we've done so far as well as what the indications are. We had a couple of years ago from the state park, the manager, I guess it would have been the interim manager at the time, who indicated that his preference was for industrial up against the state park because it tends not to trespass quite as much as residential development. Obviously, this is a section of our future land use map that has not yet been accommodated or modified to allow for the industrial activity that they're seeking. We have modified the project for the north along Douglas Hill, and that has been redesignated to an industrial category for a commerce center. Again, That's what they would be seeking this evening, to have the Commerce Center designation. As far as the zoning analysis is concerned, we took a look at all of the criteria. If you were able to approve the future land use map amendment, then all of the criteria would support the request for redesignation to light industrial for this property. And staff is recommending that the future land use map be amended to the designated character area from urban residential to Commerce Center. And we are also recommending approval of the rezoning with findings and conditions. I will read the findings for the record. A, the rezoning will not modify the intent, purpose, or spirit of the Douglas County Unified Development Code. B, the proposed zoning is consistent with the comprehensive future land use plan categorization of this property as within the Commerce Center area, incorporating varying mixed commercial and industrial uses. C, the uses permissible in the proposed zoning district are generally compatible with the surrounding properties. D, the character of this area has been evolving towards denser industrial development for several years. E, the granting of the rezoning will not adversely affect public health, safety, or welfare. We are seeking two conditions of approval. Number one, the applicant shall be required to connect to the public sewer system for this development with design criteria and specifics to be reviewed for compliance by the Douglas County Water Sewer Authority. Number two, the applicant shall submit to the Development Review Committee, DRC, for review and consideration the specific site development and access management plans to address the development standards in the UDC and the concerns and requirements expressed in the specific agency impact statements reviewed in the staff report dated September 6, 2022. And that concludes my review of the project.
Thank you, Mr. Schaefer. At this point in time, I'm going to open the public hearing on this matter. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application, please approach the podium. I've talked with Madam Chairman on this. Since we've got two items here, the map amendment and the zoning, you can have 4 minutes instead of 2. Mr. Fowler.
Joe Fowler, Post Office Box 489 in Douglasville. Thank you for your generosity, Madam Chair. Allow me to introduce Mr. Joe Moriarty. He represents the applicant, and to his right is the engineer, Mr. Tejas Patel. Been involved in the design of this project that has been evolving for some time because of the 10 parcels involved in the assemblage. 2 or more of them were tied up in probate in Fulton County, and it took a long time. Part of it, of course, is already zoned industrially, and what you have before you is a proposal for a warehouse of 431 square feet. You heard the location near the intersections of Factory Shoals, Bullard Road, Rockhouse Road. And interestingly, the use is consistent with what is the evolving industrial land uses in the vicinity as seen in detail that you saw earlier. Actually, it's on page 8 of the staff report. But it's also consistent with what you heard Mr. Schaefer describe as the desire of the Sweetwater Park Management, who requested that these properties move away from a residential type zoning. In fact, I don't think there are many in that area anymore, but to an industrial use. And it now appears almost 100% of that area is either already rezoned for industrial, or as in this case, is now pending for a rezoning, or is coming shortly. The coming shortly is the portion to the south of our property. The impacts in the report have been fully reviewed by the applicant. We are certainly aware of the implications from a transportation perspective. Other projects are, as I've just mentioned, queued up already for development in the immediate area, and we believe that a collaborative undertaking will make all those roadway changes possible with no cost, of course, to the county. The staff assessment on pages 25 through 27 support the project, and we request your approval. Mr. Moriarty and his engineer are available if you have questions, and I'm authorized to state that he consents to the 2 conditions that Phil read earlier. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, sir, and you actually took 2 minutes. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application, please approach the podium. Seeing no one attempting to approach the podium, I will close the public hearing for those in favor and open the public hearing for those opposed. Anyone opposed to this application, please approach the podium. You would have 2 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 15 minutes. Seeing no one attempting to approach the podium, I will close the public hearing on this matter. Planning and Zoning Board, do you have any questions of the representative or the applicant? Or Mr. Schaefer?
Chairman, it's Rob Thomas. I have a question, Mr. Schaefer. You mentioned it was duly zoned?
Currently, correct, yes. A portion of the property is already zoned light industrial restricted, and the remainder is zoned residential low density.
Okay, on the same parcel?
Not the same parcel,
Okay.
but one of the parcels
One
within
of
the
the
10.
10, okay,
Right.
okay. So what was the restrictions on
That's
the-
just our zoning category. There's a limitation on the number of uses and some of what you can do in the LIR versus the plain LI.
Yeah, I understand.
So
But
the-
what are the restrictions?
So it winds up being more research, warehousing, and higher-end technology-oriented businesses
Okay.
in the LIR.
When was that done? So we had to get it rezoned, obviously, at one point. When was that rezoning took place for that particular parcel?
It's approximately 14 years ago.
Oh, they knew back then?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's been
Wow,
a while
that's
since it
long.
was
Okay.
rezoned, yeah.
And just been sitting, no redevelopment?
It's an odd shape. It was hard to put something of any
Okay.
size on it, and now that the larger buildings are coming forward, they look at it as an aggregation of properties. It's much more effective to put them together.
Okay, so the assemblage is...
And that's
greater
why we
than-
asked them to rezone LIR, is because that was what was already there, is to
Okay.
maintain that continuity, rather.
Sure. All right, thank you. So I had-
Planning and Zoning Board, any other questions? Hearing none, Madam Chairman, I'll throw it to the Board of Commissioners for any questions they may have.
Thank you so much, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners, do we have any questions? It's time for the applicant. Vice Chairman Robinson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I promise my peers I'll be very quick today. All right, this one right here, again, I appreciate, Phil, can you put back up the pretty blue with all the 12 million square feet that's built out? And just wanted to make a point, again, District 2, to your comments, an economic element that is important to the county. This area is pretty much almost built out. Like I said, you have some odd shapes of parcels that are available. You know, I recognize you got light industrial, LIR, and residential, and I appreciate developers trying to make this work. Just want to make one comment. The master plan for the area of Thornton Road was to offset residential traffic dealing with Thornton Road. We had a community that was back in the back when I came in '08. Yes, this stuff has been on the books for a while. In these 14 years, I've watched this whole thing just blossom. Boom. Here we go. Right from that Mercer, from that Hampton to that right there on Bob Arnold, all that popped around there, all the way down to the back. My question is, as it relates to the commitment to the master plan, there are certain expectations along Rock House that we were looking for that cater to the residential. And if Miguel needs to confirm this, but somebody needs to validate that that will be fulfilled, that sidewalks, and I'm going to let you say it. I want to hear it. Phil?
So in DRC, what we have represented to the company, that they will be required to improve Factory Shoals from Douglas Hill over to Rock House, that there will be improvements at that intersection of Rock House and Factory Shoals and Bullard, and that they will not be allowed to have trucks travel south along Rock House, and that the properties to their south that might develop have already proposed entering from Echo and then entering or leaving via Echo to the south end of Rock House, so no truck traffic would pass through the subdivision area.
Can we get them to acknowledge what you just said? Mr. Fowler, do y'all acknowledge that expectation in that condition?
I'm Joe Moriarty with Date
Sure.
Partners.
Come on now.
Yeah. I acknowledge it. We're aware of the conditions.
Okay? Since you're standing there, the last one is 3 streets are coming together. The radius and turn radius for trucks in that area. Do you recognize, from an engineering perspective, do you got that?
Yeah.
Y'all got that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. This is beyond me. I'm not an engineer, but I
That's why we've got engineers.
right. But you understand what we're talking about. That's unique.
Yes.
And we're talking about a lot of trucks that are converging right there. It's convergence, right? So I know enough to logically flow. And so you've got that as well. You're acknowledging that that will be part of this. And Director Valentine, I know you're going to hold them to the task, but that's important for flow. And you're recognizing that you're going to make sure that's fixed and it's done well, right? Not just barely, not by 3 feet that you barely scrape by, that you're going to have significant and, well, enough to make it adequate. Is that true?
Yes, I acknowledge that.
All right, that's all I needed, Madam Chair. I yield the floor. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Vice Chairman. Any other questions, Board of Commissioners? Commissioner Guider?
Yes, I'm just curious, Phil, where do all these trucks, where do they access the main artery? I guess it's Thornton Road?
It's Thornton Road. So
Okay.
the corridor for this particular project would be up Factory Shoals to Thornton, or it would be up Factory Shoals to Douglas Hill to go down
So
to
there's
Thornton.
two accesses to Thornton Road.
It's a fork. There's only one short segment, if you look at the map, there's one short segment between their property and where Douglas Hill and Factory Shoals come together. So that intersection allows them two
And
ways to get to
Is
Thornton.
there a red light there?
No.
There's not?
No.
Are we looking at a red light? I'm a stickler for making sure that our infrastructure can accommodate the growth.
I didn't see in the traffic study that it warranted a red light, but I can defer to our DOT when we go through DRC. If they feel that it needs a traffic light, I'm sure that that would come up.
Well, if they're turning right is one thing, but if they're making a left turn
It's a stop sign right now.
onto Thornton Road.
No, not onto Thornton. Thornton is a traffic light.
Okay,
I
that's
thought-
what I was
Yeah,
asking.
I thought you meant,
No,
sorry.
I was asking,
Yeah,
is there
yeah.
a red light on Thornton Road?
There is.
Okay. Acceleration lane, if they turn left or right?
From Thornton onto Factory Shoals, yeah. So, yes, there's a project at the corner of Factory Shoals and Thornton right now, which is a separate project that is on the hook for some improvements at that intersection as well. So this is coming together as about 6 different developers all having some responsibility at both Factory Shoals and Thornton, as well as Factory Shoals itself, as well as for these folks between Factory Shoals, between Douglas Hill and Rock House. So it's a lot of parts to put together, but we're trying to manage that in the DRC so that everybody has a little hand
That's
in it.
great, because you know how government is. Oftentimes, we bring the growth, but we can't accommodate the growth.
Right.
So with that, I yield back, and glad to hear that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Guider. Any other remarks, Board? Okay. Being none, I yield back to you, Chairman Simmons.
Thank you very much. Planning and Zoning Board, you have heard the comments and the reports. Do I have a motion on M 2022-05 only?
This is Frank Payne. Make a motion to approve application M 2022-05, request for a future land use map amendment from urban residential to commerce center with findings as outlined by the staff.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
It's Rob Thomas.
I have a motion and a second. Planning and Zoning Board, do we have any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion to approve M 2022-05, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you very much. That's unanimous. Madam Chairman, I'll throw it over to the Board of Commissioners. M 2022-05, the map amendment is approved unanimously by the Board.
Thank you so much, Chairman Simmons. Do we have a motion? You have?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the recommendation of M 2022-05 for a map amendment as recommended by the Planning and Zoning Board.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, Board. We have a motion and a second. When I call your districts, please respond. District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3? Yes. District 4?
Yes.
Chairman, yes. We have a 5-0 unanimous vote and the motion carry. And I yield back to you, Chairman Simmons.
Thank you very much, Board. Planning and Zoning Board, having that approved, now would ask for a motion on Z 2022-54.
Brandon Penniman, I make a motion to approve application Z 2022-54, a request for rezoning from RA to LI with the findings and conditions as presented by staff.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Rob Thomas, second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion, Planning and Zoning Board? Hearing none, I will call for a vote on the approval of Z 2022-54. Please signify by raising your hand if you approve. Thank you very much. That was unanimous. Madam Chairman, Z 2022-54 is approved unanimously by the Planning and Zoning Board.
Thank you so much, Chairman Simmons. Do we have a motion? Vice Chairman Robinson?
Madam Chair, I motion to the Board of Commissioners to approve Z 2022-54 as recommended by the Planning and Zoning Board.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion, Board? We have
Yes, just one, Madam Chair. So
District
are
one.
these with the said findings and conditions with that motion and second? Or not? I'm not sure.
It was as approved by the Planning and Zoning Board.
So with the said
And they
finding,
had the findings in
they
there.
had the findings and conditions in there then? Okay, just want to make it known for the record, so.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Board of Commissioners, when I call you district, please respond. District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4.
Yes.
Chairman, yes. We have a 5-0 unanimous vote and the motion carries. Thank you. And now yield back to you, Chairman Simmons.
Thank you very much, Board. Madam Chairman, Mr. Schaefer, would you present our next item, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The next item is Z 2022-60, Blue River Development LLC, request for a rezoning from CHC, heavy commercial with conditions, to RHD, residential high density for townhomes located at 2556 and 2560 Highway 92, Douglasville, Land Lot 130, District 1, Section 5, and parcels 79 and 81. Lot size is 9.63 acres. The project is in Commissioner District 2. The project came before us in October of last year. We had denied the project when it came through as a 34-lot townhome project. This evening, the proposal is to have a 50-unit stacked townhome project in a slightly different footprint. It would be the equivalent of what you saw last year as 25 units instead of 34. However, each unit would be 2 units. Each footprint would be 2 units, one on top of the other. The project, having stacking like that, of course, cannot then be sold as townhomes because our code requires 2,400 square feet of dirt underneath each footprint. And if you've got one on top of another, they're not able to share that 2,400 square feet. So this project will either be condominiums or rentals for all of the units. The project is on Fairburn. It is behind the Clock Tower project, which is the Truett Business Park that was developed some years back. It has remained zoned as is and vacant now since approximately 2007, which is quite a number of years. The developer is proposing a significantly improved version of what we saw last year in terms of how this will look. Let me get you the closer up version. Instead of the road and the kind of mix of multiple buildings they had last year, this allows the road to be the outside edge of the project. Garages will enter from the road, parking will be in this driveway and garage in the back. And then the fronts of the buildings are facing into a courtyard common area, which is the amenity area for the project. The townhomes will look something similar to this, and we'll have, obviously, we don't know the exact mix of what number of bedrooms would be in each unit, so I can't tell you exactly, but depending on what number of bedrooms, you might have a mix of one floor being, the first floor being a unit and the upper 2 floors being a unit, or you might have a mix of 1.5 floors per unit. We're not sure, but we can find that out. The other would be some of the amenities that they've shared with us so far as to what would be there. The property, as you can see, is currently vacant from this particular aerial. Last year, I had put this picture in to show you what it would look like had we built the Lee Road study, which was quite a densely developed proposal, although that's not precisely how the mixed-use project Silver is going to develop, but at least you get a feel for some of what the density that they were proposing would look like in the context of the project across the street. And it would mirror that kind of density and that kind of development, adding to the number of rooftops. In terms of the TAD, the property actually is in the TAD as well. I had put that map in so you could reflect that that will be a part of the development goals. And then this is just a survey of the property to show the two lots that are in fact anticipating to be used in the project. Here's a picture looking north on Fairburn, and the entry to the property to the immediate right will be Mr. Smith's Car Wash, which is in fact gone through LDP permitting process and is about to, either it's breaking ground or it's about to, I don't know exactly where, but it is approved. And then off at the distance in the tree line there is where the project would actually sit. Here's a little closer look at the second entrance on the north side of that clock tower development, showing that there is deceleration lanes along the entire frontage, so the project would require right in, right out. We would not change that. And I don't know if Project Silver, where the main spine road lines up, I don't think it's going to line up from what we've heard so far with the north entrance to this quite. I think it's just offset. So this project would still require a right in, right out. There would be no change, no median cut on Fairburn to allow for a southbound turn and a traffic light. So apologies for that, it just didn't quite line up. The project does, we reviewed all the zoning criteria, it does meet all the criteria, and we are recommending approval with the following findings, which I'll read for the record. The findings are A, that the rezoning will not modify the intent or purpose, spirit of the Douglas County Unified Development Code, that the proposed zoning is consistent with a comprehensive future land use plan, categorization of this property as within the community village center area, which incorporates varying residential types along with mixed commercial uses. And C, the uses permissible in the proposed zoning district are generally compatible with the surrounding properties. And D, the granting of the rezoning will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare. The conditions are, number one, we would ask that you approve the condition that the double stack configuration for these townhomes does not provide 2,400 square feet of property for each unit, and therefore may never sell any of these units as anything other than condominium units or maintain them as rental apartments. Number two, the applicant shall be required to connect to the public sewer system for this development with the design criteria and specifics to be reviewed for compliance by the Douglas County, Douglasville Water Sewer Authority, and that the applicant shall submit to the Development Review Committee for review and consideration the specific development and access management plans to address development standards in the UDC and the concerns and requirements expressed in the specific agency impact statements reviewed in the staff report dated September 6, 2022. And that concludes my presentation, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Schaefer. I'll now open the public hearing on this matter. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application, including the applicant or the representative, will please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record. You would have 2 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 15 minutes. Go ahead, sir.
Mr. Chairman, mask on or mask off? I'm much more attractive with it on, but I'm happy to take it off. My name is Simon Bloom. It's my honor and privilege to represent Blue River Development in the project before both commissions. And you all don't do this all over the state, but I got to tell you that this is a very efficient way of doing this. And Mr. Coleman would tell you if I was just blowing smoke. Having the Planning and Zoning Board at the same time as the BOC makes a lot of sense. So whoever's idea that was, I applaud them. Now on to the meat. This is a 10-acre project. This case is before both commissions, having come back through a consensual and friendly remand. You've heard the issues with respect to the statistics and the basics of the project. We went back to the drawing board. We received the message loudly and clearly from the board back in the fall, and my clients went back and sharpened their pencils and got some creative minds together and put together what is, by all accounts, as even Mr. Fowler said, a nifty little townhome project to be located, as I think you know, right about on the corner of 92 and Lee Road. It does fit in perfectly with the surrounding uses. In the land use world, we consider this to be an appropriate step down or step up, depending on your perspective, but it's the right transition between commercial and residential. Right next to this project is medium to light residential, which is more or less dense than ours. Ours would be 5 per acre. Ours would be on 10 acres. You saw the site plan that shows how it's nicely oriented around almost an amenity courtyard as opposed to the way it looked in the before. It is designed to take advantage of walkability and to have access not only to the public center to the south, but also to Project Silver across the street. It is exactly where a residential project belongs. This is, as I think you probably appreciate, a downzoning. It is a less intense use on the subject property. It's less intense than the heavy commercial that it was originally zoned. I do this, and I often think about the job that you all have, which is basically to predict how it's going to turn out. It's a very difficult job. The market will always tell us how a project is going to turn out. And when this property was zoned in 2007, this heavy commercial, we found out exactly how it was going to turn out because nobody made a move on it. It was not a viable commercially zoned piece of dirt. And we know that because of the crickets that you received for 15 years in terms of offers and attempts to develop it. So as a result, we went back to the drawing board. We put together what is a nifty residential project. Does that red light mean I'm out of time, Mr. Chairman?
You're out of time.
My verbosity has gotten the better of me. I humbly request your all's favorable consideration of the application, and certainly will be happy to answer any questions. Of course, we accept the conditions as proposed.
That was my question, Mr.
Yes, Mr.
Bloom.
Chair.
Do you accept the conditions as read?
Thank you very much. Yes, we do.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Seeing no one moving, I will close the public hearing in favor and open the public hearing in opposition. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application, please approach the podium. You would have 2 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 15 minutes. Seeing no one moving, I will close the public hearing on this matter. Planning and Zoning Board, you have heard the presentation by Mr. Bloom. You've heard the presentation by Mr. Schaefer. Do you have any questions or comments for them?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for Mr. Schaefer. The condition number 1 identifies these as double-stacked condominiums. In the future, is there a chance that they'll go higher, triple-stacked? Will it ever increase the height?
So the height would be governed by the zone district, and so there are some restrictions on that component, but as far as allowing for another floor, I suspect we could put another floor on stacking of structures like that for a 4th floor.
So it could be a high-rise?
We would call more of a mid-rise, a walk-up. What we grew up in the cities with is a brownstone kind of walk-up situation.
So across the road, what are the restrictions on those townhomes?
Those are part of the PUD, so they wrote their own law in essence. So their restrictions are much less than what the regular zone district is.
Are they high-rise?
They'll be 5 stories.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's where I was going.
Yeah. Oh, in other words, comparability.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, Planning and Zoning Board?
I have a question for the applicant, if you don't mind. Have you had a chance to talk to the residents in the area, or have you have any concerns from them?
We have received no concerns whatsoever from the residents in the area. There's a couple of surrounding subdivisions.
Right.
One to the north, and I believe one to the east, and there have been no concerns raised. The project is buffered incredibly well by current and existing trees on all sides except for the side that's facing the Clock Tower retail project itself.
Right.
And all of that vegetation stays in place as part of this rezoning. And so there'll be lots of screening between this project and the adjacent properties.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Stay right there. You don't need to-
Oh, sorry. I don't have far to go.
Yes, Mr. Curry, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Based on I'm looking at here, we're talking about making either condominium for sale or are we looking at rentals? Which road are you planning on going down? Because I'm looking at the price point of what we're looking at based on that. And to give you that little second question, what would be the price point in either from being a condominium for sale or being a rental?
The current plan, thank you for that question, Mr. Curry. The current plan is for use as for these townhomes as rentals. And they'll be retained by Blue River affiliate, and they're going to own it, build it, develop it, manage it, keep it. As far as the price points are concerned, it's hard to predict the rental rates at this point because we've got lots of things happening in the housing market, and predicting out that far is hard to tell. What we're looking at, if we did it today, if I could snap my fingers and it would poof be there, I think it would probably be 2 2s and 3 2s, so 2-bedroom, 2-bath, and 3-bedroom, 2-bath. And I would suspect that the rental range would be anywhere from $1,800 to $2,200. But as I said before, you get what the market dictates, and if they don't rent it that, then they don't rent it that. You've got to reduce the rents.
Okay, so you answered the second question, meaning that it would be a 2-bedroom unit, 1 bath, and a 3-2?
No, 2-2.
2-2?
And 3-2.
3-2?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. That's all I have.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions, Planning and Zoning Board?
Just one thing. So you mentioned that you brought the property, it's been since '09, I think you mentioned?
I'm sorry,
Oh,
07.
07.
It was zoned in 07.
Okay. So it's been speculative, it's been holding all this time, awaiting the opportunity to develop it?
No, let me be clear.
Okay.
Blue River has not owned it since 07.
Okay.
I'm sorry if I implied that. No. Blue River has not owned it since 07. It's been owned by the same ownership since 07.
Okay.
And it was rezoned in 07 to the heavy commercial.
Okay.
That was, if I didn't say that clearly, I'm sorry, but those are the facts.
Okay. So it's more of a so this project is more speculative. I mean, you don't necessarily, like you say, you don't know what's going to lease for or rent for. What's the time frame as far as getting developed?
As soon as if things go well this evening and we head down I think there's a DRC process and then you go into an LDB process, you got to go. I mean, it's going to be as quickly as they can get it done because of the way the housing market is evolving or devolving depending on your perspective. So if everything went well from 2 weeks from now on, you'd be looking at 2 years, a year and a half to 2 years before the welcome home sign is in the front yard.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Fleming.
Mr. Chairman.
Madam Chairman, we'll throw it over to the Board of Commissioners for any questions they may have of the applicant or staff.
Okay, thank you so much, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners, do we have any questions? Commissioner Guider?
Yes, Mr. Schaefer. You said this is right in, right out. So there's going to be a lot of flipping U-turn cars coming out of that, right? I mean, if they need to go north, they're going to have to go somewhere, flip, and come.
So you could use Old Douglas, Old Lee.
Huh?
You could use Old Lee. If you take a right out of here, just north of Legacy Park, you could take another right turn to come back to Lee Road to go north, if that was what was your question.
So there's another access.
Oh, well, not another access to the site, but if you come out of the site and you take a right to go north on Fairburn, just a little bit further north is the old connection where Old Lee Road, I can put it up on the screen so you can kind of see it. Let me pop back to the map. Let me get up here so you can kind of get a visualization. Let's see if that's not necessarily a great one. So that's not even a great one either. We got to get north of the river. This is a little better. So, sorry. The clock tower property is in red, as I don't know if you can see it, but we're the subject parcel. So when you take a right at the north edge of the red, between red and green, you go up, you see how there's another street that comes in to the right, and you take a right turn there. That will bring you right back to Lee Road, and that's Old Lee Road. So you could take a right out and a right turn to go back to Lee, or as you say, if you needed to go down Fairburn, yes, At some point when Project Silver Spine Road goes in, that will be a traffic signal. You would technically be able to make a U-turn there to go south on Fairburn.
So the little strip mall right there, I remember I went to a retirement thing for Hazel Burton there. The people won't be going down their driveway to get to a red light. That was my concern, cut
Correct.
through.
They will not.
Okay, so they do have access to Lee Road through Old Lee Road.
Correct.
Okay, it's a shame they couldn't have the intersection align with the one across the road. But I just didn't want a bunch of cars flipping, flip-flopping, because on Highway 5, we had an apartment complex, and they were having to do that. And finally, DOT came in there and cut them an access through, you know.
This will be, it's quite heavy traffic in that segment.
know it.
So having a median cut at this point without a traffic light and a reason on the other side of the road to have that median cut, it's hard to envision that DOT would allow.
But the Project Silver across the street, they're going to have an access.
Correct. The Spine Road will have
Is
that.
it going to be
forward.
south of
It'll
this
be,
or
I
north?
think technically it's a smidge north of the northern entry to the clock tower.
Okay. Of the
I know
clock
smidge is not a technical term, but
Okay, well, I was just kind of concerned when you said right in, right out for an
apartments,
townhomes?
townhomes,
That's a
yes.
lot of cars having to go the wrong way, but I didn't know about the other access to Lee Road. So they can go to Lee Road and then go up to the red light on Fairburn Road and then head south.
if they headed to south, correct.
Okay, all right. Thank you, I yield back.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Guider. Any other questions for Vice Chairman Robinson?
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Again, I'm be quick. I'm sensing my peers vote their conscience, and we're trying to get out of here. So, well, let's come back to 2-bedroom, 2-bath. I live in 2-bedroom, 2-bath. I pay $1,800 on Riverside. I get it. I understand. It's a rental. I get you have changed the model. You've enhanced, you've grown. 2-story, I get it. With my peer, Commissioner from the 4th District, Ann Jones-Guider, traffic would be a concern. 50 cars, 50 units times 1.5 per whoever lives there, apartment. I mean, would you say in the back? You're coming through a car wash. We're going to loop back and dump onto Lee Road. Now, y'all know how busy Lee Road is? Do y'all get the traffic on Lee Road? We're fixing it, but I'm just, to your point, like, I'm not quite certain, but you're going to have to go, I would encourage going up the street, and make a loop left, but I get it. And you know how busy Fairburn Road is? Like, it's only second to Thornton Road. It's traffic. I get it. I yield, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair. Any other questions? Commissioner Carthen?
Just one question, and I don't know if Mr. Schaefer, you or the applicant can answer this. Since this is inside the tax allocation district, would this be utilized to basically pull that forward? Do we know?
I don't
that
have an
even been-
answer for that specifically, but it is in the district. So it was included, as showed you that map. That final authorization did incorporate all of the Truett Business Park.
Okay.
So the
Does
technical
applicant-
answer, I think, is when they go to develop, yes, it probably would be a piece of that tax allocation district. So they've been zeroed out, and whatever that increment is available.
Do you know, Madam Chair?
I don't know.
Okay.
But I will follow up.
Thank
Can
you.
Research it for you.
Okay. I yield.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yes.
Commissioner Mitchell?
Just one. So, I don't know, the applicant or Mr. Schaefer, either or. In that center portion that you mentioned, is that part of some kind of amenity type of a packaging of some sort, or kind of, what is that? That center portion,
Yes,
Okay.
sir. it's not an atrium, it's not a courtyard, but it is the circle of the donut, if you will. Yeah, thank you so much, Phil. That is the center where you kind of see the tree canopies and you see some of the various gazebos and park area. All that's green space, all that's pervious, all that's amenity, and all of the front doors face that.
Right.
Which I think is a nice upgrade.
Got it. So, okay. But I guess this being a units that you guys will be taking care of, you guys will maintain, keep that based on the mere fact of, okay. Interesting. Okay. That's all. I was just curious kind of what that little donut hole consists of, so.
Yes, sir, and that's a good point. Given that you'll have one owner, you will have one owner to hold accountable, and you will have one owner forever and ever. Well, I shouldn't say that, but you'll have one owner for a while to the extent that anything needs to be done or addressed on that property. With respect to the traffic question that was raised, we had a traffic study done, traffic impact study done at the end of August, provided it to staff, and it called for no improvements or any necessary modifications. You can't see it very well, but if you look on that picture, the actual access of the subject splits to the north and to the south. And so you will have the option of going on either the north side or the south side of the Clock Tower Retail Center to get to 92. And I think that provides a little bit of mitigation in and of itself to where you don't have everybody getting up, going to work, and all having to stack on one or the other. You'll become a north entrance guy or gal or a south entrance guy, whichever is easier for you to use as you get up and leave every morning.
Got it. And last but not least, so again, these are rear entry garages.
Yes, sir. So as you look at the site plan, you can see that the road is now a perimeter road that goes around the circumference of the donut, and you have visitor parking spots on the outside, and then you have access to your garages off of that perimeter road for all of the units.
Right, and I see the visitors parking looks a little scarce, but I guess based on our ordinance, our codes, it covers that need or that number, whatever that number is, and I don't know what it is.
Definitely will adhere to code on that. I think that's probably something that gets addressed in the DRC process in Douglas County, but for sure, they'll have to be, when it's fully site plan engineered, we'll have to have the appropriate number of visitor spots in order to get through DRC and an LDP.
And that's already clear, Mr. Schaefer, that they will adhere to that side of the parking outside of the normal rear end parking, correct?
Correct. Each of the units is providing the number of spaces required for the double-stacked unit.
Got it. Okay, thank you, sir. I yield back, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Commissioner Mitchell. Commissioner Carthen?
Question for you, the developer.
Yes, ma'am.
So did I hear you say that this would be a walkable community? So will you be building sidewalks coming out of both entrances so that people can get to the Publix, which is, I guess, to the left of that?
Yes, ma'am.
And then across from there? So this will be a sidewalk community?
Yes, ma'am. And the design is intended to provide walkable access to that public center, which is to the south along 92, where you don't have to get in a car and get onto 92. You can walk, ride your bike, scooter, whatever it is, to get to Publix. Now, I didn't know until Mr. Schaefer said it about Project Silver being across the street, and I share the commissioner's concern about the geometry of that intersection. Yeah, it would be ideal if we could square up that geometry, and maybe someday down the road we'll solve for that. But in the interim, access to the Spine Road for Project Silver with a crosswalk and the ability to walk across the street would be something to consider in terms of walkability as well. I mean, you've got access to that whole, what looks to be a really awesome project right across the street.
Okay. And you've addressed any flooding? Because I see a lot of trees back there, so you've kind of addressed what could be. I see you shaking your head.
Yes, ma'am. That was a concern raised. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Okay. That was a concern raised during the last public hearings during what I'll call 1.0. And so we went back and made sure that we addressed that. And I want to assure both boards that even during the 2009 flood in Douglas County, The property on which these units will be developed did not flood. It's the higher ground of the subject parcel. Yes, there is floodplain below it, where we are building setback off of it. The veg will remain as it is, the trees will remain as they are, it will be pervious, and is designed to be left that way for a reason. But I think the best evidence of any flooding concern is that in '09, when it was flooding everywhere, this property did not.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
Madam
ma'am.
Chair, I yield.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Carthen.
Madam Chair?
Vice Chairman Robinson.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on, again, I was here in '09 in the flood, and I appreciate the comments that was just expressed. Sidewalks. And so 50 units, 25 to double stack, got it. 2-bedroom, 2-bath, got it. 18 to 2,200, got it. In the back, perimeter parking, got it. Garage. And I heard it mentioned in the, still or whoever case this was, there's a car wash right here on the end. And we talk about walkability and whether I'm going to own this or not. I'm not quite certain because they weren't settled yet. The market will bear. Got it. Leave it there. Market will bear. And I'm just going on the facts that's being presented. Stay there. All right, so I'm walking along a sidewalk. I'm going through a car wash. And I'm going over to Publix. Heavy commercial is now residential. I get density. I'm staying there. This is what has been presented. And we were talking earlier about, seniors, and we recessed from an early meeting today. We had some hearings today. So this is, it's a long day, so bear with me, and I'm just now overcoming COVID, so I'm dragging a little bit, so you want to give me a little room. So I'm back to Commissioner Carthen's point. We're walking down the sidewalk, and we're trying to get to Publix. And we're coming from, again, behind, I get the tower. It's been stated, in fact, the flood has been addressed. It's a lower ground. I get it. I've seen it. I've walked it. I know why it hasn't sold. I got it. And we're walking, and whether I own it or I rent it, I'm walking through a car wash. Behind the Publix, but yet there is community on the left side. I mean, I get it north and to the east, right in that corner. I got it. It's right torn, right down the middle. Heavy commercial, industrial on one side, and residential is right in that. I mean, that's my district. It tends to be it's what it is. It's always not quite. It's divergent. It does what it does. So it's like, But I wanted to highlight the point. I'm only highlighting the comments that are made and the facts that are being presented. Draw your own conclusion. That's all I got, Madam Chair. I yield. Thank you. I won't say no more.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vice Chairman. Any other questions, Board, or remarks? I'll yield back to you, Chairman Simmons.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Planning and Zoning Board, you have heard the presentations and the answers to the questions that have been asked. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, this is Rob Thomas. I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to approve application Z 2022-60, request for rezoning from heavy commercial with conditions to residential high density for stacked townhomes with findings and conditions as presented by staff.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Frank Payne, I second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Planning and Zoning Board? And your motion did include the findings and conditions, correct?
Findings and conditions, yes.
Great. Any questions or discussions?
Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, I would like to point out that based on a housing study the county had done some time back, multifamily housing, all multifamily housing costs the county money in the long run.
You need him to speak at the mic.
Would you speak up a little bit?
Sure. Why not? It's on.
A little closer to the mic, yeah.
That's fine. Based on a housing study commissioned by the Board of Commissioners, the conclusion was that all multifamily housing actually costs the county revenue rather than pay for its way or bring in any additional revenue to the county. So that's my comment.
I know.
Any other questions or comments?
Point of order, Mr. Chair, can y'all repeat that? We really can't hear it down here, but we wanted to hear it because it was important coming from the school board. Can you repeat it, please?
Kurt, you kind of faded out at the end there.
Again, based on a housing study, multifamily housing study conducted by the Board of Commissioners, it concluded that all multifamily housing actually cost the county revenue rather than actually come out on the surplus side of revenue. It's a net loss, so pointing that out.
I still can't, I hear something about housing.
Can you just
I
repeat
can't.
it for us?
Basically, what he said is any multifamily developments in the county, according to the survey, would cost the county money. I guess in relation to fire, police, schools. That was just his comment.
Oh, okay.
Any other comments, planning and zoning board, or discussion?
I have a question for Phil. I don't know if this is for you.
No, we've already done that. That's closed. This is a motion, and we're discussing the motion
Oh, just
among the
strictly
planning and
comments?
zoning board.
All right. Well, I guess I'll recuse my question then. Thank you.
Okay. All right, planning and zoning board, call for a vote on the motion to approve Z 2022-60. All in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Those opposed, same sign. Okay, thank you very much. Motion carries. Madam Chairman, Z 2022-60 comes to the Planning and Zoning Board with an approval.
Thank you so much, Chairman Simmons.
Point of order, Madam
well-
Chair, what was the result of that? Was it unanimous?
It wasn't unanimous.
5-2.
5-2.
Thank you.
Okay. Board of Commissioners, you've heard all the questions and answers. Do we have a motion? Anyone want to make the motion, or you want me to just complete it out? I'll complete it. Board of Commissioners, you've heard all the questions and answers. Do we have a motion to approve Z 2022-60? We don't have. Okay. Okay. I'll try one more time to make sure my ears didn't fail me. Board of Commissioners, you've heard all the questions and answers. Do we have a motion to approve Z 2022-60? Okay. The motion fails for lack of a motion. Or did I say that incorrectly, Commissioner?
Said right.
Okay. All right. That's it. Okay. I'll yield back to you, Mr. Simmons.
Thank you very much, Board of Commissioners. Since that item failed, Mr. Schaefer, what is the next item on our agenda?
Sorry, can I have
Please.
just a minute to confer with county attorney on this before, if Mr. Chairman, if we have just a brief 5 minutes to confer with county attorney? Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay.
From the, yes.
5-minute recess?
Yes. 5-minute recess.
Sufficient?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Board of Commissioners, take a 5-minute recess, please. Certainly want to provide an opportunity to hear from our county attorney, Mr. Michael Coleman. You have the floor.
Madam Chair, members of the Board of Commissioners, and members of the Planning and Review Board. The issue about which we were talking a moment ago was whether or not the law required the board to take some action. And we haven't researched it extensively, but reading from the code, it says the Board of Commissioners shall take action on an application for a zoning change after the receipt of the staff report, the applicant's report, and the Planning and Zoning Board recommendation. It says it shall take action. I know that there was a previous case. I understand where no action was taken, and the board actually had to come back and vote on it to actually take action. So the word shall, to me, suggests that some action needs to be taken. So that would be my conclusion based on the 5 minutes worth of research and discussion that we just did. So,
Okay.
are there any questions of me?
Nope.
No questions
Thank you.
for you.
Appreciate
Thank you
that.
so much, Attorney Coleman. Okay, Board of Commissioners, certainly need to take action tonight, and of course, we all need to take a position. So, Board of Commissioners, do we have a motion to approve Z 2022-60 with stated conditions previously by the Planning and Zoning Board? Do we have a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve Z 2022-60 with the recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Board with the findings and conditions as read.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second in place. Board of Commissioners, any questions?
Yes.
Okay.
Comment.
Okay, Vice Chairman Robinson.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, as a point of clarity, please understand to the point of the housing study that the Board of Commissioners commissioned, in which I was an important sponsor and advocate for, to understand that our population is changing. Our children, my children, are now coming of age. The seniors are actually looking for new locations. So we recognize that our housing stock is shifting. We got plenty on top and many at the bottom, nothing in the middle per se. But everybody isn't going to own a home. This is not going to be a county of just homeowners. That'll never happen. This newer generation has a different viewpoint. They ain't going to do it like my generation or the ones before that. It's aspirational. It is part of the American dream, but you need housing options. Look at the study. Look at the data that's recently come. Most people cannot afford, choose not to afford, for whatever reason, choose just, for me, I don't need a house. That ain't important. But I'm not excluded. I'm not marginalized or invalidated because I live in an apartment. Right? It's about the quality. Everybody has a right to live where they want to live. So I want to be clear on what my position is that there's nothing wrong with apartments, condos, different housing options. And my kids don't, like, I ain't trying to cut grass. I'm cutting up grass. Different generation. I won't put that type of ideological on them. I get it. I get the math. I get the contribution to the school system and everybody else. I get it. Pay attention to choice. Most people, like, they love the battery. They love, like, this generation, like, okay, we're looking for something that a little bit more live, work, and play. We just, it's like, I mean, they're going to break this, to your point, to the guy. Market is going to determine. Pay attention to demand. This ain't no, we're going to build this and you'll just only live here. Like, no, you could, but you got different voices. Divergency that's here. This is, okay, let's make sure everybody's represented. I just want to clarify that position. There's no, my position is not against housing options such as apartments, condos, and so forth. Please don't confuse that. And I just want to make that for the record, Madam Chair. I yield. Called.
Okay. Thank you so much, Vice Chairman. We have a motion and a second on the floor. We have a motion and a second. When I call your districts, please respond. District 1? Yes. District 2?
No.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
Chairman, yes. We have a 4-1 vote, and the motion carries. Thank you so much, and I yield back to you, Chairman Simmons.
Thank you very much, Board. Mr. Bloom, we wish you best of luck going forward here.
All right, and thank you, Mr. Bloom, and wish you best of luck. Yeah.
Mr. Schaefer, do you have a next agenda item? Which I believe are text amendments.
Actually, it's both of us, so
Both of
we're
you.
going to tag team on this one.
A double
Mr.
team.
Chairman.
Okay, so we have a combination of new text amendments and some things that you have seen previously. As a reminder, this is a series of text amendments that we have been bringing to you at intervals, so we don't overwhelm you with too many things. This was done after a code audit of the Unified Development Code. We've been looking back at various plans and studies. So tonight, we are presenting you basically one substantive policy change. So Article 12, that is the code section that you have not seen at all before. That is in regard to procedures. And so Mr. Schaefer is going to speak in regard to that. We have several minor amendments that, for Article 3 that are being returned to the Board of Commissioners. So these specifically apply to the keeping of poultry, including chickens and roosters. We're going to take a minute on that one to see if we're getting closer to the mark. And then there are also some specific amendments relevant to the architectural finish of single-family homes and accessory buildings. So this was also something that came up at our August meeting, and we want to make sure that we're returning that to you, again, to see if we're getting closer to the mark of what you would like to see in the code. Finally, we have amendments to Articles 5, 8, and 15, but those are basically all to correct, minor typos and then cross-references relevant to previous amendments to ensure overall consistency in the code. So without further delay, I'm going to jump right into the Article 3, Section 307. So this is the change that you asked for us to bring back acceptable residential cladding for single-family detached or two-family residential structures. So we clarified to add a little bit more language. We're proposing to include brick, stone, solid wood, glass, or cementitious siding. And then we clarified cementitious siding to include fiber cement board, stucco, and imitation brick or stone. So that gives a little bit more depth to what we otherwise had just previously been limited to administrative approval of brick, stone, or cementitious siding. So I just want to make clear, it is still not giving approval for any type of metal as a residential building material. We also clarified the standards for polymeric cladding. Did I say that right? That's vinyl siding. Phil's improved some of the language in regard to vinyl siding. And then finally, you asked us to kind of take a look at that process whereby folks have to come back and ask for special use permit approval for different types of siding. So what we're proposing tonight is that we grant the Director of Development Services the discretion to approve materials for exterior facades for principal buildings that are substantially compatible with the existing neighborhood. In such an event where the Director of Development Services is not comfortable with that, he can still return the applicant to you for special use permit approval. Right? So right now, Douglas County doesn't have a county architect. We don't have any kind of architectural review board, but there are several other places in the code where that discretion to make changes based on context is granted to the director. So that's what we're proposing as kind of a balance between everybody having to come to the Board of Commissioners for a special use permit approval. We've been working with the GIS department and the tax department. We have a map of basically every neighborhood where we've geocoded every parcel based on the exterior finish material. As is identified by the tax assessors. So we have some greater context by which the director would have the ability to use his discretion to approve, an exterior finished material without everything having to come before y'all. So I'm going to pause right there, see if you have any questions about that, if we're getting any closer.
Hey, Allison, I have a quick question. The stucco you're referring to in paragraph, I guess it's I. Is that cementitious stucco or ephes? There is a difference between the two, and I'm not sure which one you're referring to there.
So for cementitious siding for residential, that's the fiber cement board, stucco, and imitation brick. Ephes to me is more of a concrete, like a split face concrete block material. I don't know that we see that much as a residential building material. So that would be more for the commercial, is where I've seen it applied mostly. I don't know if you have a difference of opinion on that. So, and just to be clear, this isn't really applying to our commercial or industrial standards. This is strictly residential.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? All right. If not, I will move on.
Wait 1 second.
Sure.
The Director of Development Services, would that be?
Director Worthington.
Director Worthington. Director Worthington, can I have you come up to the podium? Thank you, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening. This is not bad. This is good. I actually like this proposal because it does cut down on everybody coming before us. However, I would ask one just added note. If you could get with the particular commissioner whose district that would affect
Certainly.
as you decide, hey, this is coming up. Just wanted to let you know we've already, I think it'll be good or so, but I just want to let you know so that we would be able to just be locked in step with you.
Sure, fantastic. I'll definitely do that.
That's a yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, wonderful then. So if we could just add that caveat. I have a verbal, but I may not always be sitting in the seat, so we want to make sure that that is codified. Yes, thank you. Thank you.
He plays a starring role in another text amendment here shortly, so, but just to make sure I understand, so you'd like the language to be tweaked to say the Director of Development Services in consultation with the District Commissioner? I think we can do that in consultation with District, yeah, okay. All right, anything else as we go?
I have one.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the vinyl siding, I think I heard said something was up there. Is there no vinyl siding, or is this the new 2022-3?
The current code does contain the correct references to the most up-to-date versions of polymeric siding that are out there. So
Okay.
our code was corrected some years back to incorporate the ASTM recognition of the ASTM numbers that are actually the recommended practice for installation and the recommended thicknesses and types of the different kinds of vinyl siding that are out there, because there's several different kinds that are actually out there. And each one of the sections in the code references the proper number for the testing method that was used to verify the quality of the material being used and the method for its installation.
And how do we keep that kind of going? Because I don't think we're here today, but tomorrow it could be, we're at 10.0 now. How do we reassure that siding?
So as the testing method brings in newer requirements, we can update that as soon as they come out.
So we'll have to update it then, I guess.
Yes.
I was just trying to make sure we don't miss it,
Oh,
don't
okay.
miss the mark in the event that,
Yeah.
as stated earlier, I may not be sitting here, but,
Again, I'll take a look at referencing the most current version of.
Correct.
Versus the actual labeling of that named and numbered testing method.
Exactly where I'm
we can
going.
Deal with it that way. It's easier to do some of that with like the state building codes because those books change from time to time and they're by title. These are just testing methods that verify quality assurance. So I can look at that language as well.
Sounds good, sounds good. Thank you very much.
And just also to clarify, we are not changing our policy in terms of new houses, new construction, still we are not allowing vinyl siding to be used
Understood.
in neighborhoods for new siding. But this is just giving the director a little more flexibility for existing. Doesn't have to come back through y'all if the majority of the neighborhood already contains that. And then as Mr.
Right,
Schaefer pointed
right,
out. the
understood.
standard. So-
I like, and I've seen where we had that problem, where it became problematic. That's why I'm glad that we are trying to navigate this, as opposed to having someone put up something totally different when it comes to siding versus the neighborhood has this type of hardy plank, vinyl siding, or whatever that is, so.
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
Great.
The specific language actually recognizes that material availability is going to change over time, styles are going to change over time. So like I said, absent an architectural review board or something that's a more complex layer of bureaucracy, which we are not advocating,
Right.
this gives us the ability for a little bit of discretion, and then the director can always send folks to the board in situations that are ambiguous.
So I like the potential wording to kind of state to that degree that will navigate this, so as it changes, we're
Yes.
still up to date.
Yes.
Okay, good enough.
All
I'll
right.
yield back.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Mitchell. Any other comment forward? Okay.
Okay. I'm going to keep on rolling.
All right.
So that, because again, I want to make sure these are things that specifically y'all asked for, so I want to make sure that we are getting this correct. Now, this one going along, this is the kind of in the same code section, but this gets into accessory building standards. And so we want to make sure that we're clear about this. This is something that has come up in the context of the metal residential buildings. We heard you loud and clear at the last meeting that we're not ready to make the move towards metal on single-family detached residential structures in any form. So there's been a bit of a question about the interpretation for accessory buildings. And I think that we have had some language in there for oversized accessory buildings that require a special use permit, that if they're not visible from the road, the interpretation has been as long as it's not visible from the road, you can have a metal accessory building. Mr. Schaefer and I think, are in agreement that the code actually doesn't read that way for all accessory buildings, right? It was one specific type of building under a special use permit. So working with Director Worthington, we think this is a good opportunity to clarify that provision if it is the will of the board to do so. So what we are suggesting is that we give the same discretion to the Director of Development Services to administratively approve different facade materials, right? Currently, we require that your accessory building for residential development be substantially the same facade material as the principal, so your house, or something from our approved list of facade materials. That means that we end up either denying a number of folks who want to do the metal accessory buildings, or they have to come to y'all, again, for special use permit, which you may recall, we've seen a couple of those come through. We've said, hey, this is going to be a big, oversized metal building. So what we're proposing is that same discretion to the director to approve accessory buildings, specifically metal, but other materials that may not be on the approved list, so long as it is not visible from the right-of-way and it is not visible to the neighboring property owner at any time of year, right? So in winter, when the leaves are down, we want to make sure you can't see it at any time of year. And in the event where he is not comfortable doing that, the same discretion to send it back to y'all for approval. Otherwise, we will have to keep sending these folks to y'all for approval of their metal-sided accessory buildings. So these are barns, garages, things of that nature. So, yes, ma'am.
Just one question. This does not cover just awnings that you park vehicles under, because most of them are metal.
So it wouldn't deal with the awning if it's just the roof, right? If they decide to
It
put
doesn't have sides.
if they decide to put sides on it, then yes, it does cover it. But if it's just the roof, right, we're good? Right, if it's just the roof, that's just a metal roof. And a metal roof is currently allowed,
Okay.
in all residential zoning districts. But once they start putting sides on it, it does cover the sides, but not the roof.
All right, thank you. I yield back.
Madam Chair?
Vice Chair.
Yeah, this one, when we start giving power to individuals, and I think the word that was used earlier is consultation, and I know we're not trying to burden ourselves in these meetings, but then at the same point, we're asking for them to contact us if it's our respective areas. So, I mean, you're still going to be engaged. You never want to lose oversight. And, I mean, regardless if we're here or they're not here, meaning staff, it's important that you, listen to what y'all saying, okay, somebody has discretion. So how are we consistent? So in this district, you start to let metal pop in. In this district, you're not. Where's the consistency? How do we maintain consistency and uniformity in that discretion that we're about to give power to an individual to make? How do we check and balance that? This is business. This ain't personal. This is oversight. And so I would want to, I'm open to the words consultation with, this is and we're trying to, be flexible, and I'm not quite settled on the suggestion of alternatives, but I'll yield to my peers. I'm not settled, but I'll yield to my peers. But to give this power for this discretion, I definitely want some type of, you got to come holler at me. I want to know what you're up to. I just think that it could get away from us. So what type of assurance can y'all give us that, I don't want word, I want code. No word, code. Explain to me how you guys will give us assurance that there will be consistency across all the districts, no matter what, and that, we pop up one day and we audit this thing, and we sit here and we got, this high concentration, and it just, Talk to me.
Sure, understood. So a couple of things. I mean, I made a note that the same language about, consultation with the district commissioner can be included in the code. I think that we could provide reporting out in our quarterly report of the buildings that are approved administratively, so that would be one way that you could see that. And then I think in consultation, right, if you start to see that you're getting a lot of these requests, that may be a reason for you to kind of direct staff to bring back the issue as an amendment or similar to the full board for consideration. And I would kind of look to Phil and James to give me a sense of like, I don't know that we get this request all the time, but I would say we get it often enough that we felt that it was worth it to come to y'all to see, do we at this time feel like it's an appropriate move? So those would be three ways that I would say that you could have the checks and balances. Another alternative, if you would like to do that, is, currently it requires a special use permit to the Board of Commissioners. We could also tweak it to be a variance to the Planning and Zoning Board. I'm not 100% certain why architectural standards specifically are directed to the Board of Commissioners, but that's how our code is written, right? The board has wanted to have control over architectural standards. We could also very easily transition it to a variance to the Planning and Zoning Board if you would like a higher degree of oversight beyond just administrative approval by the director.
Well, I think duly noted, and I'm open to all that, and I'm going to yield to my peers. They're probably a little bit more housing and a little bit more senior in this on this. But regarding reporting, I want to know, well, how many decisions are you making regarding that? So again, one more time, you got choice, but where's the proof? How do we keep up with the data and the decisions that are being made offline? So if I give you power and I have less insight, well, some kind of way I need to find something that says, okay, but how many of these are being done and what district are they being done in? I mean, so sometimes it's simply that, right? The reporting, how will you keep up with this? How will you report on it? But again, if the board allows this, then all these controls are easy once they determine that this is what they want. So I'm going to yield right now, Madam Chair. I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair. Any questions or remarks, board? Okay.
Okay.
Allison, do you have another one?
All right. So then the last one that I want to make sure that we go through with some degree of specificity is regard to chickens and roosters. Y'all asked us to bring this back to you. And so just to clarify, we are keeping the same amendment that we proposed in August. So we would increase the number of poultry from 6 to 24, right, that can be kept on the property. In regard to the roosters specifically, what we are proposing is that roosters may be kept on tracts that are 5 acres or greater. If you are between 1 acre and 5 acres, there must be at least 500 feet between residential structures. Previously, we had proposed a prohibition on roosters. We had looked at some other codes that were recommended to us by our poultry expert at the University of Georgia that we were consulting with, and we saw that that was one of the ways that roosters were sort of handled in a capacity where they're, kind of kept as pets, for lack of a better word, for the personal use and enjoyment of the family. Because poultry operations, where somebody is keeping chickens as a breeding operation, that already requires a special use permit, right? So that would require somebody to come to the Board of Commissioners and ask for a special use permit. What we're strictly dealing with here falls under Article 319 of the code, where folks are just kind of wanting to keep poultry on their property, just sort of for their own personal use and enjoyment. So the takeaway from this is changing 6 to 24, allowing roosters on tracts that are 5 acres or greater, or for tracts between 1 and 5 acres, you must have a minimum of 500 feet between buildings. We are still keeping the same prohibition on roosters in all platted subdivisions, and you must have a minimum of 1 acre to keep them. Otherwise, we have the same design requirements that we brought to you in August in terms of keeping them confined to the property, some provisions about exotic animals, and then the feeding, any place that you store food must be kind of contained, so you can't just kind of throw grain out into the yard that would attract vermin and things like that. So how'd we do? Questions about that?
Vice Chairman Robinson?
Yes, I appreciate that. Thank you. This the chicken, again, in all my 56 years, I've never seen a live chicken. It's not my experience. That's just not my walking life. Seen cows and horses, but never saw a chicken, never saw a rooster or the leghorn on TV. However, this is interesting for me because we live in Douglas County, and we claim that we got a little urban, a little rural, a little bit of both. right? There is sort of a rural part that, well, I figure that is wide open. It's where they live. And to hear the narratives recently about prohibition on wildlife, and again, I'm not talking about any wildlife, but I mean, I would think that in rural, the chickens and horses and cows are normal. But I mean, just to listen to what we've gone through, like, wow, really? What is the issue? We're rural. Where else they gonna live? But nevertheless, I'm stay on task for the topic. I was contacted by one of my residents recently, which is why this is of interest to me. I'm District 2. I'm the eastern wall. So this got my attention because, again, if this was west, I'd go with west. I'm like, hey, that's how, I mean, wouldn't bother me. I'm 100%. But here we are in the east. But yet, back to the, I've got a citizen, and Mr. Hammond, and I'm not certain if he made it or not, but he had contacted me because he's got 5 acres. And again, his goal is to have enough chickens and roosters for, therapy, veterans, federal programs. So, Allison, can you talk to us how that would affect our code sometimes when we have these federal programs and how to accommodate?
So, Mr. Hammond, I did speak extensively to Mr. Hammond, and I think that the text amendments proposed here this evening would actually assist him. Now, his issue was unique and one that, quite frankly, I haven't run across specifically, and so I'd be happy to talk a little bit more offline about that. I don't know how much is appropriate to share in public session.
Yeah.
But I do feel confident to say that the increase in the number of poultry from 6 to 24, that would assist him. And I think in general, we understand that to be a number that is probably more in line with an appropriate number of keeping of backyard chickens. The 6 is particularly restrictive. It's a number that results in a lot of code enforcement issues and complaints. Because it is just such a low number, right? It doesn't matter if you have, 5 acres, 10 acres, you were only allowed 6 chickens, period, on your property. So I do feel that without getting too much into sharing the specific details of his issue, that I do understand that the increasing the number would fall in line with what he is currently keeping on his property. And so he would be in compliance if we do amend the code as we have proposed this evening.
All right, so thank you for your professionalism and your discretion. Duly noted, well done. But to that point, so 6 going to 24 chickens, and I don't know if I can have more than 1 rooster or not, like Little Fish, the beta, they can't be in there. Can I have more than 1 rooster? Is there a limit, or talk to me about that? I don't know, so I just want to make sure you limited the number of chickens. What does that mean by way of roosters? How does that work?
So we actually limit the number of poultry, right? So that's going to be chickens, roosters, ducks, geese.
Oh,
right?
they're all in.
Poultry, it's all in. It's all your birds that you're wanting to keep in that category. Most of the complaints do tend to come in about chickens. I don't have a number specifically for roosters. The P&Z board had had asked this question of us previously. I have language in there that says a rooster. If we need to modify that to 1 rooster or 2 roosters, we can certainly look at that. But it was not our intent to limit the number. We were just simply putting the parameters around it that we had proposed previously.
All right, so one more time, this is poultry.
Yes, sir.
So I can have up to 24 elements of poultry, whether it's 23 chickens and 2 roosters or 21 roosters and 4 chickens?
That is correct, sir. And just as a reminder, there is a provision under the Code of Ordinances for animal control relating to nuisance animals. So if somebody chose to have 24 roosters and the attendant noise that they would create, I would actually refer them to Article 5 of our Code of Ordinances in regard to the nuisance complaints about noisy animals potentially.
No, I don't want to get off task, and I don't want to get into the 65 roosters that were in that nice subdivision a couple years ago. So that I get it. I want to stay on task, but duly noted. You've answered my question. I think we satisfied it by saying that any combination thereof of chickens and roosters up to the 24, duly noted. I got it.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
comfortable with that. Madam Chair, I yield. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair. Okay. Any other?
So I know this was a little bit different the way we did this, but I know you had some specific questions about those provisions. In regard to our other text amendments, I can defer to Mr. Schaefer if you would like a detailed overview. I know that you got everything in your staff report previously. What we get into with Article 5, Article 8, and Article 12 and Article 15 are a lot of really detailed process changes. We're happy to answer any specific questions that you would like, but in the interest of time, we can cut our staff report short there because I know you already have the materials and had a chance to review it, unless you would like us to go through in more detail, and then we can get back on track for our more normal format of public hearing questions. So, would you like any questions about Article 5, 8, 12, or 15 that we need to get into any level of detail?
No. None from the Board of Commissioners.
All right, if not, I will turn it back to you, Chairman Simmons, for the public hearing.
Thank you very much.
Everybody like,
At this point in time, I will open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of these text amendments, please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record. You would have 2 minutes per person for 15 minutes allocated total time.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
My name is Steve Hammond. I'm a disabled Army veteran. I reside on Laurel Lane in Douglas County, off the intersections of Pope and Boumar. And I purchased this 5.5-acre piece of property back in 2017. And 2 years ago, I was approached by a veteran organization called Comfort Farms. They reside out of Milledgeville. They help veterans do therapy there with a garden and raising some chickens. And I thought I did the proper research, looking around the area and doing all that, but apparently I didn't. I recently had an appraisal done on my property where they let me know that I was in violation. I have 20 hens and 2 roosters. And I work with another farm ran by Zach Brown called Camp Southern Ground out of Lafayette, and some Wounded Warrior friends, veterans of mine that I served with in Iraq, and we do a lot of therapy out there. Two things I heard, and some of it was a question about the roosters. To be honest with you, I don't want somebody with 15 roosters. We did some research too, as far as how many to have, and really you only need 1 rooster for every 10 hens, which is what we have right now. And the roosters are mainly for even if it's not for breeding, the roosters are for the hawks. Okay, keep them away, but they'll fight them. But we've had a lot of success doing it. I've had some offers made to me from some bigger organizations that in the future to maybe look at doing a little, having a couple of goats and doing some other farmer there. I have veterans come out there, and they're able to be on the property. I'm surrounded by tree lines. Now, as far as the containment, I don't want to see chickens in the street neither, and I've actually taken a couple of photos just to show that I keep mine completely contained. I don't know if you'll be able to, I keep them completely contained. And my property, which is the way I think it's because my neighbors don't want my chickens all over their car, or in the street. So I keep mine completely contained, a huge bird sanctuary, and well-maintained in the garden and everything. And, like I said, I have about 120,000 square foot circle in the middle of a tree line, and none of mine's ever gotten out. And so I'm hoping that they will agree with the amendment that because it would be helping a lot of us out. I mean, I have a lot of guys that look forward to coming out there, and we do gardening and we grow everything that we eat, and it's a good thing.
Great. Thank you, sir.
All right.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application or these text amendments? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing in favor and open the public hearing in opposition. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to any of these text amendments, please step forward to the podium. You would have 2 minutes per person for a total of 15 minutes. Seeing no one moving, I will close the public hearing on this matter. Planning and Zoning Board, no, I will turn it over to Board of Commissioners if y'all have any other questions.
Okay, thank you. At this time, Board, do we have any other further remarks or questions at this time?
Just what?
Okay, Commissioner Geiger.
I would like to thank Mr. Hammond for your service to the country.
Yes.
Thank you. I yield back.
Okay, thank you so much, Commissioner Geiger, and thank you so much, Mr. Hammond, for your service. Yield back to you,
Madam
Chairman.
Chair?
Vice Chairman?
Yeah, no, I did want to comment about your service, but I'm glad you made it. I'm glad you accepted the invitation because I did hear your heart. I heard you and the responsiveness, so thank you. All right, so what's the difference between a chicken and a hen? No, seriously. We've been talking about chickens, and now he introduced a hen. What is a hen in relationship? So again, one more time, I can have a chicken, a hen, and a rooster. They all qualify as poultry, yes or no?
Poultry, yes.
They all
Chickens
fit.
are hens.
Okay, I
Chickens
just-
are a type of bird. It includes hens and roosters.
All right, because I'm talking to him about chickens for the past couple of days through my office, and I want to make sure I'm representing right. So, okay, we're good, Mr. Hammond. I got it. Okay, I'm good, guys. I yield, Madam Chair. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you so much, Vice Chair. I yield back to you, Chairman Simmons.
Thank you very much. Planning and Zoning Board, you've heard the comments. Do I have a motion, please?
It's Brandon Penniman. I make a motion to approve the proposed text amendments per staff recommendation.
I have a motion and I have a second. Point of order, do we need to add to that motion that as modified verbally? Because there were couple of modifications there.
Just to clarify, staff understands that we need to make provisions in regard to the discretion of the director to work with the district commissioner. This is in regard to anything related to the single-family architectural treatments and the architectural treatment for accessory dwellings. We also need to make reference to the most current version of the polymeric siding requirements. So,
Would that be part
So
of
we
your motion, Mr.
understand.
Penniman?
Yes, I make a motion to approve the proposed text amendments per staff recommendation with the addition to the verbal modified recommendations.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Ford Curry, second.
Thank you, Mr. Curry. Do we have any discussion, Planning and Zoning Board? All in favor of this, please raise your hand. It's unanimous. Madam Chairman, we have a motion to approve the text amendments with the modifications made verbally. It was 100%.
Okay, thank you. All right, Board of Commissioners, do we have a motion to approve the text amendments with modifications and as read and voted on by the P&Z?
Madam Chair, a quick point of clarity.
Mm-hmm.
All right, when we said modifications and everything you just mentioned, I did not hear reporting or oversight. I want that to be said again, that you're going to keep up with, if we make these discretionary decisions, you're going to keep up with it.
So, Vice Chair, this is James Worthington.
Yes.
If it's at your pleasure, I'll just include that in our quarterly report that we provide, and I'll just break it down by commission districts. Is that sufficient?
That is excellent.
All right.
Okay, I'm not, I'll just take that offline through just straight administrative. I got this. Madam Chair, yield back. I'm good.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Geiger?
I make a motion to approve the proposed text amendments as modified tonight, too, as approved by the Planning and Zoning Board.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion, Board? We have a motion and a second. When I call you districts, please respond. District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3? Yes. District 4?
Yes.
Chairman, yes. We have a 5-0 unanimous vote and the motion carries.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Ms. Duncan, is there anything else to come before the board tonight? Mr. Schaefer?
Nothing more, Mr. Chairman.
Nothing else on our agenda for the board tonight. Planning and Zoning Board will be adjourned. Madam Chairman?
Board of Commissioners, is there anything to come before us tonight? If there's nothing else to come before this body, this meeting is adjourned.
All right. Good job.